Well, college realignment starting to take center stage over the past few weeks. There's reports about the Pac-12 and especially the Big 12 maybe looking to expand in the near future in response to both the conferences kind of losing two of their top programs each. Meanwhile, the Big 10, the SEC conferences looking to continue to expand further and possibly creating two super conferences with 18 to 20 teams. Let's just say the Power Five. They've been acting up a little lately over the past couple of weeks. I guess they just need some games in their life. All this shakeup, of course, will definitely be the topic of discussion over the next few days. And why not do it? The media days on the docket for the big conferences there. Big 12 starting next Wednesday, the 13th through the 14th. The SEC right behind them, 18th through the 21st. And then bringing up the rear, the Big 10 at the end of the month, the 24th and 25th. So get your popcorn ready. And I know one guy who's already locked in on that, our senior college football writer, Dennis Dodd, joining us on HQ. And I know you've been a busy man, but so many moving pieces over the past few days. What's the latest you can tell us about this college realignment here?
Yeah, Brandon, a couple things. We're probably going to see the announcement of the new Big Ten contract. And that may cause some more dominoes to fall. I should say we'll probably see it this month, maybe debuted in a super rollout fashion at the media days. You just saw the dates there. What we'll know then is what teams are the Big Ten going forward with in 2023. Now, that doesn't preclude Notre Dame from joining. Everybody's worried about Notre Dame as the next domino to fall, but Notre Dame could join the Big Ten at any time. If they want to take months or even a year to hash this out, the Big Ten's going to wait for them. Notre Dame has to decide, determine what the access is going to be for the playoff. Is it going to be better for them outside the system or better for them inside a conference? I don't know if the commissioners, when they model this new expansion, will they cut Notre Dame a break? But they did the last time. The 12-team model that was turned down earlier this year gave Notre Dame pretty good access. The only caveat was that they would have to play a first-round game every time through. We don't know what the playoff's going to look like going forward, so we just use the term access. The other thing going forward is I think you can see how this is shaping up. You mentioned 18 to 20 teams at the top. I think the question, going forward once again is, what's this going to mean for playoff access in the future? And what are those two conferences going to dictate in playoff access, to the point that a certain man called Phil Knight is working the phones at Oregon like a telemarketer, feverishly trying to find a home for his Ducks? That doesn't mean they won't have one in the Pac-12, but what is the Pac-12 going to look like? Or does it even exist at all? It amazes me, Brandon, that Oregon and Washington aren't automatically on the list for the Big Ten, but they're not. They don't bring enough value, say, as a Notre Dame to be in that conference. Not even the Big 12, which is now kind of leaning towards geography if they expand. So I think that's interesting that a school like Oregon, Washington are on the outside looking in.
I mentioned off the top that we will have those media days for those three conferences, each, of course, throughout the next couple of weeks here. What do you expect the subjects to be? Of course, the obvious, the realignment, but any questions or answers we might have answered, or is this something that we just might have to wait until a later date?
Well, let's not forget the ACC on the front side and the Pac-12 on the back side as well. This is the sexiest run of talking days that we've ever had, as Steve Spurrier likes to call them. It's talking season. Let's start with ACC. You're going to have a conference that is right now freaking out over the possibility of being $50 million behind per school, the SEC and Big Ten, and what does that look like? Clemson, Florida State, and Miami may be eyeing the SEC, but how do they get out? I talked to one source last night who told me it would cost ACC teams right now $500 million to get out of the current deal. That's going to be kind of hard to finance. We know at the ACC that Dabo is going to spout off about something, whether it's this or that, or an NIL, our transfer portals in the locker room, something like that. Big 12, meet the new commissioner, Brett Yormark. He's a brash guy who's hit the ground running, trying to take care of the conference in terms of realignment or expansion. Comes from a non-traditional place. He was with Jay-Z's Rock Nation. He's been with NASCAR. He's been sold sponsorships for NASCAR and done other things. New Jersey Nets. One of his best friends is John Calipari. And then, of course, the granddaddy of them all, the SEC, where they're just going to have to answer questions about taking over the sport. Not that they hadn't before, But last summer it was Texas, Oklahoma. Now it's a super conference with the Big Ten. What shape is that going to have? And oh, by the way, the defending national champions are there, Georgia, and a little tiff between Jimbo and Nick Saban. And who did I leave out? There's one more. Big Ten. How can we leave out Big Ten? I just told you what the situation was there. Jim Harbaugh coming off his best year at Michigan, everything involving Notre Dame and realignment, and the first, looks like, $1 billion per year contract for a college conference.
Dennis, I got to ask you, this seems like Christmas morning to you. I mean, all this stuff going on. There's a little excitement in your voice. I hear it this morning, right?
Oh, yeah, the season begins in July regardless. You know, that first media day, or really SEC media days, kind of kicks it off. It's not opening day, folks. It's talking season, as Steve Spurrier likes to call it, with the media days. They mean more in this sport, I think, than any other sport. It's fun.
All right, as we get closer to the actual games, as you mentioned there, the season around the corner, the biggest on-field question you have leading up to that is what?
Who's number 4? Whatever top 25 you look at, you had to pause when you got to number 4. Let's fill in. Pretty easy to put in Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. Yeah, they're going to be in the playoff, or at least pretty heavy favorites to be projected in. But I had to pause when I got to number 4. For me, it's not Clemson. They don't have a quarterback until further notice. They have to develop one or get better really, really quick. Is it Baylor? I really paused at Baylor. Baylor is now favored to win the Big 12. They won the league last year in a tremendous goal line stand and went to a New Year's Six bowl. Dave Aranda is one of the budding superstars. You're going to hear about him. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Baylor to keep him. He's that good, the old defensive coordinator at LSU. Is it Oklahoma in Brent Venables' first year? A lot of people think that, the pieces are in place to make a run. But I thought it was really interesting, Brandon, that Oklahoma had one player on the Big 12 preseason all-conference team, and that was the punter. That doesn't happen at Oklahoma. So try to slot in there a number 4. There isn't an obvious pick for me. Is it Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman's first year? You got question marks about all those. So I think that makes it worth watching early on.
As you mentioned, starts with the QBs with those programs there. All right, Dennis Dodd, as always, appreciate you breaking all that down. Keep all that excitement down a little bit before we even get to those games there. The conversation, by the way, continues with the Cover 3 podcast. Mailbag time for the fellas there, talking about what program is about to have the best season in a decade. Also, the realignment possibilities in the future for those programs, starting with the Big 12, as Dennis kind of highlighted there. Download and give them a follow.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.